Assalamu alaikum, y'all, and welcome to Iftar'ing with CAIR Arizona. This is Azza, the Executive Director. This week, we have a very special guest with us, State Senator Martin Quezada. Martin has been serving in the Arizona Senate since 2015. He's also a member of the Pendergast Elementary School District Governing Board, serving since 2011, Martin, right?
Yes.
Previously, was a former member of the Arizona House of Representatives from 2013 to 2015. Martin, welcome. We're so happy to have you join us today. And you've been very strong in activism, and your background is pretty amazing. So, would love to hear you share with us some of the reasons why you got into this work and all of that good stuff. But actually, before that, let's rewind. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing really good. I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah, thank you. So go ahead. What got you into this work, Martine?
So, what got me into all this work? That's a good question. I kind of got into it in a backwards kind of way. It's not like something I always wanted to do or that I even knew a lot about. But I kind of got into it later in life. So when I was in college, when I was studying in school, I took an internship doing this work, and that was like my first real exposure to everything, to politics, to activism, to learning about everything and how everything really works and how everything functions. And I kind of was uh, interested and terrified and all of that all at once. And that was my real kind of first exposure to all of it. And it made me realize that a lot of big decisions get made without me paying attention to it. And so I saw that those decisions kind of really impacted my life too, and that it was really something that I kind of had to stay in. So I ended up working there. I applied and I got a job, and that turned into a job for 5 years working in state government, and that made me decide later to try to go to law school, and I did, and I did that and all of that stuff. And later, after law school and after working on the Court of Appeals, I was still following all of it really closely and watching it and paying attention. And a, a seat opened up, and somebody asked me if I was interested in doing that, and I had never thought about that ever before. But I said, why not? I'm young and I'm poor and I can do it. And so I tried it, and here we are, all these years later, and I've been doing it ever since.
I know it's been a while. I guess, Martine, I want to elaborate because sometimes folks don't understand how important local government is, right? So, if you want to talk a little bit about like some of the issues that you are facing, like just even like here in Arizona, that just made you feel like, wow, we really got to change things here in Arizona.
Yeah, I think some of the big issues that were that I was seeing and that made me decide that it was something I could do was like for me was immigration, and seeing all of that taking place and happening. I mean, this was during the time of Joe Arpaio, when he was like when he was big in the community, when he was doing all of that stuff, doing raids in my neighborhood where I lived. Um, all of that, and seeing Russell Pierce and the whole 1070 thing, and being that I was studying law, and I was some of my first work was criminal work. So seeing kind of the criminal justice system and how that worked and how it didn't work. That's probably the better one, the better way to describe it. How it really did not work for a lot of people, and seeing just all of that happening all at once, that and immigration and all of that happening all at once. Seeing all of that made me start looking for it more, if that makes any sense. I started to learn about it, I started to study about it, and I started to see it with my friends and my family and my community. And My mom immigrated to this country. I've got friends who were and family who were involved in the justice system. And so seeing all of that just kind of play itself out right in front of me made me really think this was something I could try to help make better. And so that's why I wanted to do it.
Love it. Love it. And it's always best, I mean, best when you do see it firsthand, right? You get that
Yeah.
empathy and like compassion as you're helping the community, right? Because you've been there. Um, Martine, I'm sure so many people are curious. How has this session been in the Senate? Um,
Yeah, this session has been much different. It's been a very different experience because of COVID last year and everything, seeing all of that happen.
yeah,
Um, and so it was well, last year really was a different year just in general. And so, I mean, for all of us, I mean, the whole world, it was a different world because of that. And so seeing all of that happen and then carrying it into this year, it was a much different year for the legislature. And so because of that, everything was different. We were virtual. A lot of stuff was done online, just like this. And so the government started to function that way. And so at first I didn't know how it was going to be at the start of the year, and we tried to do things electronically and virtually, and that didn't work, and it just wasn't working at all. And so it ended up kind of going back to normal, except only for us. So at the state capitol, we were the only ones there, and there was no public participation. So there was no rallies, there was no people kind of showing up and knocking on my door and saying, hey, I want to sit down with you, and I want to bring these people with me, and they want to sit in front of you and look at you and tell you what's going on in their communities. And so it went kind of all virtual, but then not virtual at the same time. So it was weird. So it was like they forced us, the members of the legislature, to be in person, and so all of us are in person. They forced like my assistant had to be there in person. Our staff, a lot of our staff was there in person, but nobody else. So it's like we would go sit on a dais and we would have a meeting, and we would start that meeting, and the room would be empty. Nobody would be there in that room except for us, you know. And
yeah,
so that was what that did, um, for a lot of people and a lot of members, was for some people it made us feel just kind of weird, just in terms of like how we operate, and we interact with people and we feed off of their energy, you
yeah,
know, that kind of thing. That was gone, but at the same time, for others, it emboldened them, and it made them say, hey, nobody's looking, nobody's watching, nobody's seeing us. We can do whatever the hell we want. And so the issues that we started dealing with this year were heightened. They were saying, we used to try this stuff and it would get people upset, but now they're not really here, and all they're doing is they're sending us emails and they're talking on social media, but it feels like nobody's watching. So it feels like we can do whatever we want.
out
And
of
so
sight,
the
out of
people that
mind.
were doing bad things were
Mhm.
doing whatever they wanted. And
Yeah.
and that's kind of what's happening.
So I think there's 2 points here I want to bring up. Well, one, I want to know some of these like bad bills that have been out, because I feel like people need to know, because I know I've talked to you a few times and I'm just like, oh my God, this is blowing my mind. This is so crazy. Um, but one, I think most folks don't really know that they can actually set up meetings to come and talk to you about like issues that are happening in the community. And can you tell us a little bit more about that? That way folks know like what to do. Like, let's say, you know, they want to pass a hate crime bill, right? Or they want to advocate for a hate crime bill. What's the process of them getting to you? how easy is that? How accessible is it? I know it's COVID now, but let's say it was, back to 2018, or when was it
Yeah,
that things were normal?
yeah. No. So that's kind of the crazy part, is that we are as accessible as ever. You know, it just feels like we're not, but really we are. And I know a lot of us also are kind of craving that. You know, we want to talk to people. We want to see people watching us. We want to know that people are paying attention to what's happening, because all the same stuff is happening. You know, they're doing it all. You know, there's all sorts of issues going on right now. There's all sorts of bills, and like I said, you like last year, the year before, what they would do is they would know that there's one controversial issue, right? And so they would have one bill that dealt with that issue, and they would put that bill on an agenda, and and then they would fill that agenda with 5 or 6 other bills that weren't that bad. You know, they were okay. You know, like, and so if people were watching, if people were there in the audience, you know, and they were seeing it, they would see us vote on 2 or 3 good bills and then maybe one bad bill. You know, but now this year they're like, hey, nobody's watching. Let's do all 5 bad bills, all of those bad bills we always wanted to do. Let's just do them all right now. And so that's what our agendas look like. Our agendas are filled with nothing but bad issues, you know. And so it's kind of crazy that it's happening that way, but it's still the same process, right? So you can still get involved with that process, and you can still watch that process, and you can still have your voice heard. You can still make meetings, and you can still talk to us. And all of that is the same, you know. So we are waiting, and we're wanting for people to get involved. And we, like for me, when I'm fighting against a lot of those bad bills, because there's a lot more of them now, I need for people to get involved and to go participate, and to watch what's happening, and to participate in the whole process, because there's a way you can do it, and I can help you with it.
Yeah. And I encourage all of you to follow Martin on social media. He's always posting about bad bills that are out there and when he needs you to make these phone calls, right? So I that's one of the things I really appreciate about your page. When I'm not paying attention to the news, I just go to your page and I'm like, what's going on? So, Martin, can you tell us a little bit about some of the bills that are um, going in the Senate right now? I know there's a lot of bills that have to do with, policing, and a lot of voter suppression bills that are happening right now. So, can you tell us just briefly, or actually, you can expand as well about either of them? I think both are very important for the community to know about.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of them. So I mean, voter suppression is like a big thing right now, and so it's happening. And so there's kind of um, 2 philosophies about kind of, if you, for the people that are like in power, right? So let's put it that way. I'm in power, right? I've got everything. I've got the majority. I've got uh, the ability to propose legislation, and I've got the votes to make sure that it's going to become law. And so what that means is going to impact people's lives, and I have that, and I'm comfortable with it. I've been doing it, and it can get passed, and you know, people will push back a little bit, right? But it's still going to pretty much happen. Um, that makes people do a lot of things. They're able to push a lot of policies, from healthcare to education to policing to public safety to voters, and voter access, and either limiting that or providing more of it. And so what's happening right now is, when you talk about voting and voter access, they are thinking about limiting that voter access to all of us, right? Because all of the other issues are not going in the favor of the people who if they are watching, they're not really liking it all that much, you know, unless you are a major corporation or a very wealthy person, or you know, you're not kind of us, right?
Yeah.
So that means voter suppression. So they can do voter suppression in a whole bunch of different ways, and they are doing it in a whole bunch of different ways. And so one of the big ways is to um, make it more difficult for you to vote. And so that's what most of the voter suppression issues are. They're not so much, um, it comes in a lot of ways. It means it's just when it's a voting day, when it's a voting time, when it is voter registration time, all of those things, whether it's registering to vote, whether it's going through the process, whether it's requesting an early ballot, whether it's actually voting early, or any of that stuff, or whether it's showing up on election day and turning in your ballot, we're going to make all of that stuff harder for you in all the different ways. So it's going to make you have a whole bunch of different forms of ID to sign up to vote. It's going to say that if you want to get on this list of early voters, we're going to make that part hard. And then once you get your early ballot in the mail, we're going to make it harder for you to make sure that it gets turned in, whether it's putting it in the mail, whether it's showing up on the day to just drop off your ballot, or whether it's showing up on election day with your ballot or without your ballot, or it's the first day you show up just at the polling place. We're just going to make it really hard for you to vote. And so that's what they're doing. They're doing that in a whole bunch of different ways. And I mean, I could tell you about any one of those different ways, but it's happening right now, and they are absolutely doing that. And so, yeah, voting is going to become much, much harder if a lot of these bills get passed.
Yeah. And there's about 30, right? Or
Oh, there's a whole bunch of them. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And that actually affects more of like BIPOC communities, so especially communities of color, right?
Yes.
We can't take time off of work, single mom, single dad, or
Mhm.
just so many different reasons to why you need some of, like, you need access to being able to vote, like we need automatic voter registration. I'm like all about that, like we don't need to be waiting and purging people out of lists and all of that stuff. Martine, I had a question for you, another question for you. How well, one, I want to talk about like some of the police brutality bills that are happening right now. But also I want to get into like solutions, right? Like how do we make sure that these types of bills don't pass? Like what do you expect from like the community, right? I've worked in politics for, the last 7 years. So for me, like I know the process, but I think it's important that folks also hear it from you, um, considering you are the law, kind of,
Yeah. So yeah, I think like at the legislature, which is where I am, we make the laws for the state of Arizona, right? All those laws. And so while people are focusing on cities and city councils and mayors and council members and focusing and looking at them because they control police, right? Like they are the ones that fund policing in our community, and they are the ones that can create different ways to police our community differently. While everybody's kind of focusing on that because that's a big deal right now, because we are seeing like the whole George Floyd things, and we are watching that. We're seeing the news and all the investigations that they're doing about policing, and we are just hearing it and we are seeing it online whenever we get online, and we're seeing the that there's just, it's another day, it's another situation where another person has been shot dead, right? Or another person has been thrown on the ground and they have jumped on top of them and they pulled out their gun and they've just came out there. The police, is just stop and shoot for rather than stop and talk to people and rather than stop and try to find ways to get the system to calm down and to find out what's going on, like hey, what's going on? Are you having a mental health issue? Is it a homeless person here? Is it just people that are just fighting and they're just angry? Did I just pull somebody over, um, and now they don't like that, and so they're just gonna, that person in that car is just gonna argue because of that, and I'm just not gonna have any patience for that, so I'm just gonna start shooting. That's what's happening in the news right now, right? And we're seeing it over and over again. While all of that is happening, the legislators, the people that I work with, right, we could find, we're looking at people that are organizing, right, and we're starting to have marches, and we're starting to push back, right, we're doing all that stuff. And so at the legislature, what we can do, because nobody's looking, right, because it's COVID and nobody's showing up at the Capitol, right, we're going to make all that stuff harder for you to push back. So here's what's happening. um, they're creating bills that are saying that if you're going to go to a protest and you're going to march, right? And that's what you're doing, and you're there to push back, and then you do different things, whether it's, or it's not even you, but it's things that just happen, you know? So somebody breaks a window, right? That happens. Or somebody, you know, kind of, they throw something through a window, right? Um, if that happens, we're gonna call that a riot, right? We're just gonna say that the whole thing is a riot, whether you are peacefully protesting or you're just there because you just want to say, hey, I want better kind of policing in my neighborhood. So I'm just going to show up to this event and I'm just going to march with people and I'm going to link arms with them and we're going to march through this community and we're going to say, hey, enough is enough, right? And hey, people are mad because things are happening. So maybe one of those people over there throws a window, throws a brick, or breaks a window, or whatever. You know, all that stuff is happening right now because that's happening all over the world, right? All over the country, and it's happening. So what they're going to say now is, hey, if you do that, we're going to call that a riot, and we're going to, not only are we going to charge you with rioting, we're going to create a whole new law that says that if you do anything while that is happening, we're just going to make every little crime that you do during that time, we're going to make it all that much worse. And so there's a bill going through right now that does exactly that. And so we're going to make that just the worst offense that you could ever have, ever. And that's what's happening, right?
How likely is that bill going to pass?
It's there right now. And all that it needs right now, it needs two things to happen. It needs the full Senate to just approve that. And all they got to do is they got to pass it by the full Senate. And that means that all they have to do is put it up on the board right now, and the full Senate has to approve it. That means that 16 senators need to say yes, vote yes, and all we got to do when we vote yes is push a button that says yes instead of no. 16 of us, not 15, 16. So if they can find 16 of our 16 of us over there, get 16 of us to say yes and just push that button, then all that happens now is goes up to the governor. It doesn't have to go to the House of Representatives. It doesn't have to go to just a committee, and it doesn't have to go through all that process because we actually did all that already, right? So this is the last thing that's left, is just the full Senate has to get up there and vote. And if 16 of us say yes, that's it. It goes to the governor, and the governor either signs it or he vetoes it, or he could do another thing, which is he can just sit there for 5 days and let it become law, right? After after we send it to him, right? And that's where we are right now. That's all we need, and that bill will become the law.
That is so scary.
Yeah.
That is so scary, especially with some of the laws that I've been seeing or trying to get passed. It's crazy. Martine, what's the solution for folks? Like, what can folks do to help stop these kind of bills becoming laws? Right? Like, what can I do? What can the community do right now to stop things like that?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I mean, so there's a bunch of different things that we could do right now, right? We could continue to just make other people aware about this. Let them know, hey, there's a bunch of things going on right now that would this is you right now. You're talking to your little sister, right? Or you're talking to your brother, or you're
Yeah.
talking to your mom, or you're talking to your dad, or somebody you work with, right? Or your friend that hangs out. They don't care about politics. They just wanna. They don't care. They just want. I want the police to leave me alone, right? Or I just want that bill to not pass. Or if I do want to pay attention, right? I want to go do a protest, and I don't want to become a felon after that, right? That's all they care about. You can tell them that, hey, there's a bill right now. It's going through. It's almost there. It's literally almost there. And like I said, that's all it is. All it needs is that 16th vote and that governor's signature, and it's done. And that's it. You're a felon now if you go to this protest, right? Tell them to pick up the phone, call their legislator, and tell them all I need you to do is just vote no on that bill, right? It's House Bill 2309. Um, that's one of them, right? Or, hey, I don't want to pick up a phone, right? I don't want to have to look that up, find their number, sit there, wait, let it ring, have some lady get on the phone, and they're going to say, yeah, he's not here right now, right? Because he's doing all this other stuff. I don't want to have to leave a message, but I follow that dude. I follow that dude on Twitter, right? I see him on Instagram, or I can just talk about it on those platforms, right? Or on Snapchat, or anywhere, any of those things, on Facebook. I see people like I'm just browsing when I'm bored, right? When I should be working, but instead, I'm just looking. I'm browsing, right? I should be working, but I'm doing that instead. Leave a comment and just say they should vote no on that, right? That's what you should do because you see it right now. Do it. That's all
And
we need.
they see it. These
And yeah,
folks see it,
we see
you
it all the time
know.
because I'm over there because I hang out with these people, right? I'm just hanging out with these guys, and I'm looking at them like, hey, you saw that, right? I just saw a whole bunch of people right now.
You're like,
they,
I
they,
listen to my people. Do you?
yeah, yeah, it happens. Trust me, it does.
Yeah. Martina, it's been so informative, like hanging out with you today. Like, and this has been so like amazing. We need to have you more and have more of these conversations. I know like the session's running till June now, maybe, right? You're,
Probably. They just
yeah.
told us right now for sure it's going to go through May, so it might go into June.
Oh, Lord. Well, good luck out there, keeping us safe. And I will make sure that I tag you in this post so folks can follow you. And if you're living in his district, you can stalk his profile all the time. He has all the good stuff on there. You'll always stay updated. Um, and yeah, thank you for coming, Martine, and spending Ramadan with us, and I am sure I'll see you around.
I